Last year,
It's happened!
they went and took it.
He struck him out looking!
This year,
The Texas Rangers win the World Series!
they're here to run it back.
It's over!
This is Bleav in Texas Rangers, hosted by Mitch Ferreldis.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Bleav in Texas Rangers. We are fresh off of another series, and because there's no breaks in this 17-game stretch for the Rangers, we're right into the next one. Hey, if you like what you're listening to and you want more, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Look for the YouTube channel. Look for Bleav in Texas Rangers on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends and tell them how they can hear more Texas Rangers coverage. But let's get right into what happened yesterday. So this is being recorded Friday morning, a few hours ahead of the first game for the Rangers against the Atlanta Braves. And we have to talk about the obvious big story from this series, and that is Jack Leiter, one of the Rangers' top prospects who got the start yesterday against Detroit. So real quick, to go backwards a couple of days, it was on Tuesday that the Rangers had officially announced that Jack Leiter would be slated to pitch on Thursday. He obviously was not called up until said time, officially, according to the transactions at least. But it was announced on the Tuesday ahead of John Gray's start, I believe it was, that Jack Leiter was going to be making the start on the Thursday. And it's funny because on the previous pod, we had discussed, maybe this could be something that happens in a couple of months. Maybe if he keeps rolling the way he is down in Round Rock, we could see him by then. No, as a matter of fact, it was in just a couple of days that we got to see Jack Leiter. And before we get into the nitty gritty, because it was a here and there start, there was a lot of good. There was definitely a lot of stuff that needs improvement. I think we're starting to see why this Rangers, or this current iteration of the Rangers, is going to be around and competitive for a long while. If you think about Jack Leiter, Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, those three seem to be the foundation of like the next great Rangers team. But at the same time, they're coming up into a group that's going to have Marcus Semien for the next few years, is going to have Corey Seager for the next few years. Jacob deGrom is still under contract for the next few years. And then think about other young guys that are still key contributors like Josh H. Smith. Cole Winn got his first couple of goes at it in the big leagues in the bullpen. This is a Rangers team that already coming off of a World Series win with all the talent they have, they're already set up to be one of the scarier teams of the next decade at this rate. You think with all of the talent that they have right now, that's in the big leagues, that is nearing the age of 30, but is still at least under contract for a while, combined with all of these young, talented prospects that you were able to draft during the lesser years before this, the Rangers are set up perfectly for the rest of the decade, at least, to be able to remain competitive and maybe even surpass the Astros in the division. They've already surpassed them last year, of course, winning the World Series. But maybe you could overtake the Astros and take the mantle of the AL West the way that they're set up right now. So let's talk about Jack, because it was obviously a very hyped up start. It was one that a lot of us were looking forward to when it was going to happen. And it could have gone better, but we'll start with the positives aspect of it. So the first inning it was taxing pitch count wise, but he got his first couple of strikeouts and he was able to get himself out of trouble with a runner in scoring position. And I thought that spoke volumes about his demeanor and the way he's able to work out of tough situations. I said that, and then the second inning happened, which was the first of two blow-up innings for Leiter, I would say. He allowed 4 runs in that second inning, and that tied the game because the Rangers were up 4-0 going into that bottom half. And then things just kind of got away from Jack for the most part in that second inning. The command was very here and there. The pitch count ballooned in that inning. I think he threw somewhat of 30 pitches. 4 runs on 4 hits, I should say. Started with a leadoff walk. He didn't get his first out until the 4th batter of the inning, and by then 2 runs had already scored. It was a very taxing inning for Jack, and the bullpen had to get started early. I think Austin Pruitt was warming up, and you're wondering, oh great, so this is a less than ideal first start. But then he had a really good bounce back 3rd inning where he went 3 up, 3 down. And you're thinking, okay, maybe he's settled in a bit, maybe he's figured the perfect pitch mix, or maybe it was just that point in the lineup, the part of the lineup that he was in that made it less difficult for him to get through. And then the 4th inning was just as rough as the 2nd inning. So I think we can all agree his 3rd inning was by far his best inning because it was 3 up, 3 down. His 1st inning was good, despite the fact that he allowed a couple of runners and the pitch count was relatively high. The 2nd inning was very rough for Jack. The 4th inning was just as rough. He was able to get the first 2 outs, but then Riley Greene doubled, and it essentially became a triple because Leody Taveras kind of misplayed the ball, and as a result, it bounces off the wall, and Greene is able to go all the way to 3rd on that play. Or am I think? No, I'm sorry. That was the Kerry Carpenter hit to center field. Apologies about that. But yeah, Greene gets on, and then Mark Canha walks, and then Kerry Carpenter brings them both home on a slight route adjustment misplay by Leody Taveras. Like, if he catches that, the inning is over, and that's normally a play that Leody makes, and he just wasn't able to make it in that instance, and that kind of was one of the bigger differences in this game. That's what helped keep the Rangers in it. The very next batter, Spencer Torkelson, was able to double home Kerry Carpenter, and then at that point, Jack Leiter's day was done. So, if we were to give it a grade, not that I just want to hand out grades all day, but it's leaning like C minus, D plus kind of range. I want to give Jack the benefit of the doubt because it was his first major league start, and he's very young. So there's plenty of time for him to properly adjust to this level of hitting and properly adjust to find his perfect pitch mix and everything else that comes with, being a big league starter. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here, and I'll just adjust it, and I'll say a C. There was a lot of stuff to like. The strikeout pitch mix was very, very good. His fastball was reaching upper 90s, which you like to see. The only problem was the command was very, very shaky in 3 out of the 4 innings that he pitched in. And if he's going to be a part of this rotation for a little bit because of injuries to the staff, you have to think that this is something that they're going to work on with Jack on his days off. So overall, not the most ideal first start, but it became irrelevant in the end. The Rangers were able to come back and win 9-7. And more importantly, I have to shout out Leody Taveras because there was 2 instances in which Taveras absolutely redeemed himself for his center field misplay. So in the 8th inning, there was a ground ball hit by Marcus Semien, and Leody Taveras is caught in a rundown going from 2nd to 3rd. And somehow, some way, he's able to duck and avoid the tag by Urshela and get into 3rd base. And if he did not do that, then Corey Seager's grounding into a fielder's choice would not have scored any run to give the Rangers the necessary insurance. And that run was Leody Taveras. And if that wasn't enough, Leody then doubled down in the top of the 9th inning and singled home Josh H. Smith. So in more ways than one, Leody was at least able to make up for the defensive miscue by providing for the Rangers on offense. So that was very encouraging. And I don't know, it's really weird to watch him struggle the way he has defensively to start this year. We saw it a couple of times in the opening series against the Cubs, I remember specifically. And you need his defense out there. Like, that's one of the big reasons why he's he's a part of this lineup every day is because he can play really good center field defense. There's just been a couple of times this year already that you kind of shake your head, or you not necessarily throw up your hands, but you just kind of shrug and you're wondering, why is he making that mistake, or why is he running that route? Other people to shout out based off of yesterday's 9-7 win over the Tigers. 3 home runs in the game after not collecting a single home run in the series to that point. Marcus Semien led off the game with a solo home run. Jonah Heim had a 2-run home run. And then Adolis Garcia added his 5th home run of the year, a solo shot that came in the 3rd inning. So the Rangers were able to do a lot of damage early on and also able to recover late as a result of surrendering a few extra runs to Detroit. So let's really quickly recap the rest of the games, and then we'll look ahead to Atlanta. So the week started, there really was 2 Texas Rangers debuts. The first game of the week was Michael Lorenzen's debut. And I think I'm also going to give this performance a C out of respect to the fact that he at least gave up 0 runs, but there's other aspects here. Michael Lorenzen finished with 5 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, struck out 4 on 79 pitches, but he also walked 5 batters, which is less than ideal. The benefit, however, was that Lorenzen was able to force 3 double plays in consecutive innings, as a matter of fact. Lorenzen was able to force 6 total ground balls of 8 batters that either forced a ground ball or a fly ball out. And 3 of those 6 ground balls became double plays. So I'll give Lorenzen the benefit of he was able to throw a good pitch mix that was able to get him out of the inning and get him out of trouble. And obviously the Rangers needed to get out of trouble. They scored just 1 run in this game. But another key reinforcement to this rotation in Lorenzen, and I just hope that the next start goes a little bit better than this first one that he had on Monday. And otherwise, for the most part, I think he's going to fit in just fine for this team. And then there was the loss on Tuesday, 4-2 in favor of Detroit, where once it was Jose Urena was tagged with the loss, but there's not really a ton of criticism I have for Jose in this sense. He only allowed 1 earned run in a game that they lost 4-2. John Gray actually had a really solid outing, another quality start for John, where he threw 6 innings, struck out 7, allowed 3 hits, and then 1 earned run. The problem is that the offense just went really, really cold. Despite only leaving 5 on base and hitting 2 for 6 with runners in scoring position, the Rangers only scored 2 runs. It was not a full offensive day from the Rangers. They had a total of 6 hits. It was a day off for Adolis Garcia. They were trying to get some rest days in there because, as we've emphasized a bunch, 17 consecutive games without an off day is the stretch that the Rangers are in right now. So Adolis got the day off. Whether you want to attribute that as the reason why the offense went down, that's up to you. It's not like Adolis did all that much in this series. He hit the 1 home run yesterday. He was 1 for 3, drove in a couple on Tuesday, and then he was blanked on the Monday game. So his offensive production was a lot heavier towards the latter part of the series, maybe because of the off day. That's what helped get Adolis back on track. But this was a game where you needed some offense, and you just didn't get it out of the guys that were asked to do that on the Tuesday game. But in the end, they ended up taking 3 out of 4 from Detroit, which is kind of what you need to do. Detroit, as we mentioned going in, has kind of been a frisky team to start the year. As it stands today, they are 10-9 on the season. They got off to a really good start to the point that they were one of the few undefeated teams left in the league until they lost to the Mets, I believe it was. And there's a lot of aspects about the Rangers that teams should watch out for, maybe not for this year, but in the next couple of years that'll make you start to worry about them a little bit. So in the end, the Rangers get the W's that they need. The offense was kind of lifeless in the first 2, and then in the last 2 games, they really started to pick things up. So maybe that's a precursor of things to come when they head to Atlanta. We'll just have to wait and see. All right, let's do a quick injury update. And I want to shout out Bobby Belt, who works for 105.3 The Fan, who's, of course, the affiliate of the Texas Rangers. Bruce Bochy was on with Shan and RJ on April 17th, a couple days ago. Said that he was impressed with Max Scherzer's recovery from offseason surgery and believes that he'll begin his rehab start soon. And there's a quote, "He'll start pitching in games here within 2 weeks," close quote. And that's very, very encouraging, especially given, and we've emphasized it a bunch, the injuries that have plagued this rotation and this bullpen too. Brock Burke was transferred to the 60-day injured list a couple of days ago as well. This team needs its pitchers. It needs its pitchers, especially when you have bright spots like Cody Bradford go down with an injury, and they're just doing it precautionary, I understand, but he's still on the injured list. You still need somebody to replace him in the time being. So it's very encouraging to see that Max Scherzer is at least getting the ball rolling once again, or soon to get the ball rolling once again, I should say. Also soon to get the ball rolling, Nathaniel Lowe, whose rehab continues. I think I saw from Jamie Newberg, who's independent now, that the Round Rock official note said that Lowe is done with his rehab assignment. Does that mean that there's any reason to pull him up from AAA right now? I don't know. Perhaps there's spot for him, or a spot for him, I should say, either in this Atlanta series or on the off day they decide to make a move that regroups Lowe back into the fold. But he's progressing very well, and he should be back with the big league club in a matter of no time. One other thing I meant to hit on when it came to the games. So it's very clear now that the back end of the bullpen strategy has changed. So here's example one. In the win on Monday, Jose Leclerc pitched 2 innings in the 6th and 7th innings. David Robertson the 8th, Kirby Yates the 9th. He got the save. The next example, in the 5-4 win, Jacob Latz was first to pitch after Dane Dunning and then Austin Pruitt. And then David Robertson, he was charged with a blown save. And if not for Josh H. Smith's go-ahead RBI in the top of the 9th, we maybe are talking about this differently. And as a result, Kirby Yates got the win in this one, but it was still set up for him to get the save. And then the same kind of line happened in the game yesterday. Urania was the first out of the pen, but he had to eat a lot of extra innings for Leiter. And then the 8th inning, it was Leclerc. He could not finish the 8th inning, and they went to Kirby Yates to get the final 4 outs for the save. So remember I think it was a week ago or so, when Bochy was asked about any decisions to make on the back end of the bullpen, and he said he wasn't too concerned about it, or he said something to that ilk. I guess he was concerned about it because Kirby Yates is this team's closer now. He's collected 2 saves in 4 games. And he also got the win in a situation where he easily could have gotten the save were the circumstances different. But Kirby, who's recovering from this injury that has plagued his last couple of seasons after a really strong San Diego Padres campaign not that long ago, he looks awesome. And I get it. It's only against the Tigers, who we've given credit to and then we've kind of diminished at the same time. I'm very curious to see if he has a save situation against Atlanta, a former employer of his, if he produces in the same way, or if he provides in the same way. Is he going to be the Kirby Yates that we saw against the Tigers, or is he going to be a different Kirby Yates? Because the way it's set up now, he's their closer. And I kind of agree with the decision, because doubling over on the aspect of moving Jose Leclerc out of the closer role is the way that he's pitched in his non-save or his non-closer role. The 2 innings that he had against Detroit after Michael Lorenzen, he allowed just 1 hit and struck out 2 on 36 pitches. That's pretty efficient. And then in the game where he pitched just before Yates, he got the win. He pitched 1 inning and he struck out 2 through 25 pitches, but he wasn't able to finish the bottom of the 8th inning. Now, whether that was just pitch count and they just wanted to get to a different matchup or the situation called for it, Leclerc was still struggling with location yesterday. and he was still struggling with allowing guys on base. But he's working the ERA down. He's looking a lot cleaner in terms of his delivery and where he wants his pitches to go. So a lot of signs pointing positive for Jose out of this closer role that he was in. I think it just fits to have Kirby Yates in that role right now. All right, let's do a really quick
Wyatt Watch.
He played in just 3 games of this 4-game set. He collected 2 hits in 10 at-bats, or 11 at-bats, excuse me. He scored twice, and he drove in 1 run, walked a couple of times, struck out 4 times. And that was something that we had applauded Wyatt for, was his ability to not strike out all that much. This was a series where he definitely struggled with the strikeout pitch. But for the most part, he got another extra base hit. That just his second double of the season and his, I think, 3rd extra base hit in total. So, hopefully Wyatt picks it up again soon. He hasn't really had a full strong, like a fully strong where he just completely took over at the plate series yet. The Astros series was close, the one in Houston, but we've just yet to see it so far. We shouldn't rush anything either. He's still hitting .254 on the year. He's driven in 9 of the team's runs. The OPS is .643, which is a little worrisome because we're not seeing that power stroke just yet. We're seeing him good ball-to-bat contact, but we're still waiting for that home run ball. That's the biggest thing that we're waiting on at this point. Really quickly, before we transition to the Atlanta series, I got to shout out Josh H. Smith. The H stands for him, by the way. Josh has been awesome filling in for the injured Josh Young, particularly in the Detroit series. As I mentioned, he had the big hit in the Wednesday game that gave the Rangers the win. He also had a 1-for-3 outing yesterday. He scored twice and was able to get on base a couple of times. Josh Smith has been excellent in terms of what he's been asked to do when a key starter has been down. And in 50 at-bats, he's hitting .320. He's driven in 10 runs, and he's got an OPS of .833, which is easily league average. He's kind of been sneaky, like fighting his way into a permanent spot in the lineup almost. I don't know if he's going to get it when Josh Young returns, but for right now, he's giving the Rangers everything that they need. He's working good at bats. He's getting on base. He's driving in runs. We know he's got the speed, and the defense is not beating him up yet, which has been really important to see. So I just wanted to shout out Josh H. Smith. Before we wrap things up and we look ahead to Atlanta, who, they're the formerly best team in the National League this past season. As I'm working to pull up their records so far this year, they're 12-5. I think that tells you everything that you need to know about how Atlanta's done and how they've carried over from year to year. Hasn't been a ton of Ronald Acuna Jr. He just recently hit his first home run of the year. It's been a lot of everybody else, like Matt Olson and Austin Riley. Michael A. Harris, I know, has been a big part of it. The real guy who's been an absolute catalyst for this team's offense to start the year has been Marcell Ozuna, who slugged 8 home runs, and he got another one in their sweep over the Astros. By the way, thank you, Atlanta, for that. But Marcell Ozuna is off to a ridiculous offensive tear to start the year. He's going to be a guy that Rangers pitching is going to have to watch out for and going to have to pitch to properly, because the month that he's having right now, it's one of the months that you just absolutely want to avoid giving him anything to hit at all costs. I mean, in 71 at-bats, he's hitting .352, 8 home runs, 23 RBIs, and he's OPSing 1.135. Do not give this man anything to hit, or he will punish you. The probable matchups. Tonight's game, which Friday is which I'm speaking about, Andrew Heaney will get the start against Chris Sale. And then on Saturday, it'll be Nathan Eovaldi against Charlie Morton. And then they will close Sunday with Michael Lorenzen against Darius Vines. The big thing to note about Atlanta is they've lost starter Spencer Strider for the year to UCL repair. So they have no more Strider to lead that rotation, but they've still got some really strong arms. Their bullpen seems pretty set in terms of setting up their closer, Raisel Iglesias. So don't get in a situation where you have to face Iglesias because it could bite you. I know there's familiarity with him given his time with the Angels, but Iglesias is one of the better closers of the past 5 years at least. I will point this out too. If you're hoping to watch this game on television, I hope you have an Apple TV Plus account because this is an Apple TV Plus game, this Friday night game between the Rangers and the Braves. Makes sense. It's a very much a marquee matchup against the reigning World Series champions and the team that was the best in the National League last year, won over 100 games. I wish there was a better way to be able to distribute these games to the fans. I think it'll still be available locally, if I'm not mistaken. I forget how the partnership works, but I Bleav that, having Apple TV Plus is your best bet in order to watch tonight's game. Or you can listen to the call on the great Rangers radio feed. I know they do a great job. I'm not sure if Eric Nadel is with them, traveling with them. He wasn't in Detroit, so I'm not sure if he's with them in Atlanta, but still a good crew. And then I know Jared Sandler does a great job with the analysis. So a lot of great options for you in terms of consuming these games. But that's going to do it for this edition of Bleav in Texas Rangers. We will be back after the Atlanta series is through to recap everything that happened in the A and talk about how the Rangers will utilize their off day before they get set to host the Seattle Mariners coming back to Texas. So I almost screwed up the ending. Well, I did screw up the ending. So until next time, Bleav in Texas Rangers.